Think of Matthew before we meet him. If he came from Nazareth, pretty rough area, this guy would have put up, been ostracized, probably had stuff thrown at him from behind.
Yep.
Jews were forbidden by law to be a tax farmer. But this guy does it anyway. And I think in the rabbinic writings, there was difference made between the publicans as gross sinners, and I'll get the pronunciation wrong, chaver, which is the observant Jew and therefore righteous. You can't be a righteous Jew if you're a publican. People would put you on the same level as prostitutes. You were not allowed to be a witness in a court. And yet, even though he was rich and making money from this, he gave up that wealth.
He walked away from it. The very point about the tax collectors. What we will do is we will instantly bring that forward, and we'll think of Inland Revenue Department in our modern 21st century. We'll think of IRS if you're in the States, or whatever your tax revenue department is, and we'll align it with that. That's not the way it was. So back in the day, as you have rightly said, there were two general types of tax collectors. There was the gabai, which was a general tax collector on taxes for things like property tax, income tax, poll tax. And those tax levels were set officially, so there was very little scope for a gabai to actually tweak them. Then you had the moches, the ones who are responsible for collecting duty on imports, exports, goods for trade, anything that moved by road. They were responsible for setting toll fees, bridges, how many cattle, beasts of burden you've got on the road at the time. And so often those tax assessments that were made by the moches were arbitrary and sometimes quite capricious. And within that group, it was broken down further. So you had the great moches and the little moches. And the great moches were the ones that Scripture refers to as a chief tax collector. And they are like the head honchos who stay behind the scenes. They let others go out and do their dirty work. So if you were to look in Scripture at a chief tax collector, it would be Zacchaeus, who Jesus calls. He was a chief tax collector. And the little moches would work for them. So these are the dudes that would man the tax offices, the booths where they would receive duties. They were the ones that had the face-to-face contact with the people that got all the crap. And it was those people that you could put your finger on that were the ones that were banned from the synagogue, from the temple worship and all of that sort of things. In your face banned. Get out of here, being spat on as they walk down the street and all of that sort of stuff. Matthew, as a tax collector, would have sat in that little group. He manned the tax office. Where Jesus saw him, it says in Matthew 9:9, as Jesus passed forth from thence, which is from Capernaum, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom. And he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. So that seat of custom is the tax booth. So he's a little moche who was banned from the synagogue, had no hope. And this rabbi walks up, knocks on his booth, and goes, "Hello, mate, follow me." And remember the call to follow a rabbi?